Tommy Chen was 8 years old when he found hell. 200 puppies, stacked in wire cages floor to ceiling, starving, dying, crying for help. He told the police. They did nothing. The warehouse owner was Richard Castellano, rich, connected, untouchable. Real estate mogul, political donor, friend of the mayor. So Tommy did something no one expected. At 6 a.m., he rode his bicycle to the Iron Riders clubhouse and knocked on the door. 72 hours later, 100 Harley-Davidsons surrounded that warehouse. The national media arrived. Castellano's empire began to crumble. This is the story of how one 8-year-old boy and 100 bikers saved 136 lives. Tommy loved taking shortcuts through the woods on his way home from school. On October 17th, he heard something that changed everything. Crying. Hundreds of voices crying at once. He followed the sound to a massive warehouse hidden from the main road by dense forest. A side door hung open. Tommy stepped inside. Cages, hundreds of wire cages stacked on top of each other, stretching from floor to ceiling. In every cage, dogs, puppies, and adults, all breeds, all sizes. But these weren't healthy dogs. They were skeletal, covered in sores, sitting in their own waste. The smell was overwhelming. Ammonia, rot, death. Many dogs lay completely still. Tommy couldn't tell if they were sleeping or dead. A golden retriever puppy pressed against the cage bars, looking at Tommy with eyes that begged for help. Her ribs showed through matted fur. Her water bowl was empty and green with algae. Tommy ran home, crying. "Mom, there are dogs dying, hundreds of them, in cages." Susan Chen called 911 immediately. Officer James Rodriguez arrived with Animal Control Officer Sarah Martinez. They entered the warehouse. 20 minutes later, they emerged. Sarah crying, Rodriguez furious. "At least 200 dogs," Sarah said. "Severe neglect. No food, no water. Half won't survive the week." "So you'll shut it down?" Susan asked. Rodriguez's expression darkened. "The property is owned by Richard Castellano." Susan's blood went cold. Everyone in town knew that name. Castellano, developer, political donor, friend of the mayor, and police chief. "I don't care who owns it," Susan said. "Those animals are suffering." "Mrs. Chen, we need a warrant to seize the animals. The DA has to file charges, and the DA—" Rodriguez trailed off. "Won't charge him because Castellano funds his campaigns," Susan finished bitterly. Sarah spoke up, voice shaking. "I'm filing a report with the state board, but that takes weeks. Those dogs will be dead by then." Tommy had been standing quietly. Now he spoke, voice small but determined. "Can't we just take the dogs out?" "That would be theft and trespassing," Rodriguez said gently. "I'm sorry, son." "But they're dying," Tommy shouted. "They're dying right now while we talk about laws." No one had an answer for him. That night, Tommy couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those dogs. The golden retriever pressing against the bars, the empty water bowls, the ones who weren't moving anymore. He thought about who could help. Police couldn't. His mom tried but hit a wall. Animal Control's hands were tied. Then Tommy remembered something. Last month at a birthday party, his friend's uncle had shown up on a huge motorcycle. A biker who'd said, "If you ever need help, kid, bikers take care of their own." At 6 a.m. before his mother woke, Tommy got on his bicycle and rode to the Iron Riders clubhouse. His hands shook as he knocked on the door. A massive man answered, 6'5", arms like tree trunks, thick beard. He looked down at the small boy holding a piece of notebook paper. "Kid, you lost? Are you Iron Riders?" Tommy's voice trembled. "Yeah. What do you need? Tommy held out the paper. On it, he'd written in careful handwriting, 200 dogs are dying. The police won't help. Please. They're crying. Below the words, Tommy had drawn a picture of a dog in a cage. The man, Marcus Diesel Coleman, club president, took the paper and read it slowly. His expression changed from confused to serious to angry. Show me, Diesel said. Diesel followed Tommy through the woods to the warehouse. He stood outside for a long moment, listening to the crying. Then he entered. 5 minutes later, he emerged. His jaw was clenched so tight his teeth hurt. He'd seen combat in Iraq. He'd seen death. But this systematic torture of innocent animals for profit, made him want to break something. He pulled out his phone and called Tank, the club's vice president. We've got a situation. Call everyone. And call the bandidos, Mongols, and outlaws. We need bodies. What's happening? Puppy mill. 200 dogs dying. Rich owner with political protection. Police won't touch it. There was a pause. How many riders do you need? All of them. The Iron Riders mobilized with military precision. Within 4 hours, members from 3 different motorcycle clubs had converged on the warehouse. Riders came from 3 neighboring states. 100 motorcycles formed a perimeter around the warehouse. But Diesel had been very clear. Everything we do is completely legal. We're not breaking in. We're protesting. We're bearing witness. And we're making sure the whole world sees. They set up 24/7 watch rotation. Bikers took shifts, 12 at a time. They brought cameras, live streaming everything. They brought signs, 200 dogs dying inside. Justice for animals. Castellano's shame. Sarah Martinez provided documentation, photos of conditions inside, medical assessments, estimates of dogs already dead. Snake, the club's tech expert, created a website, SaveThe200.com. Within hours, 50,000 visitors. Within a day, 500,000. The photos went viral. National animal rights organizations took notice. By evening, news vans from 3 major networks had arrived. Diesel spoke calmly into the cameras. We're citizens exercising our right to peaceful protest. Inside this building, 200 dogs are suffering and dying. The owner is Richard Castellano, wealthy developer who believes his money puts him above the law. We're here to say it doesn't. We'll stay until these animals get justice. Aren't you concerned about trespassing charges? A reporter asked. We're on public easement. We checked with lawyers. Everything we're doing is legal. Mr. Castellano is violating multiple animal cruelty statutes. We're making sure everyone knows. Day 2. Castellano's company stock dropped 40%. First major donor pulled support. The wall was cracking. Richard Castellano held a press conference. Polished suit. Expensive lawyers. These allegations are completely false, he said smoothly. The facility is a licensed breeding operation. All animals receive appropriate care. These protesters are harassing a legitimate business owner. Have you been to the facility recently? A reporter asked. My employees handle day-to-day operations. So you haven't personally inspected the conditions? I trust my people. Will you allow media to tour the facility? Castellano's smile faltered. That won't be necessary. Snake had been watching the live stream. Within 10 minutes, he'd found the county inspection reports, all filed by Castellano's brother-in-law. Every report claimed no violations found, despite photos proving otherwise. Snake posted the reports online alongside photos from inside the warehouse. The corruption was obvious. The story exploded. Day 3. FBI opened an investigation into falsified reports. Tommy's drawing went viral, 10 million shares. Momentum building. Day 4. State Attorney General announced a review. 5 corporations canceled contracts with Castellano. His political friends stopped returning calls. On day 5, Mayor Thomas Bradford showed up with the police chief, demanding the bikers leave. "You're creating a public disturbance," the mayor announced. "Disperse or be arrested." Diesel stood his ground. "Under what statute? We're on public property, peacefully protesting. That's protected by the First Amendment. You're harassing a business owner. We're exposing animal cruelty. Big difference." The standoff was broadcast live on 3 news channels. The mayor realized arresting 100 peaceful protesters for trying to save dying animals would be political suicide. The mayor blinked first. "Fine. But if anyone steps on that property, they'll be prosecuted." "Understood," Diesel said. "We won't need to. Help is coming." That afternoon, Tommy approached Diesel with tears streaming down his face. "Can I talk to them?" Tommy asked. "Talk to who, buddy?" "The dogs. Through the window. I want them to know we're trying." Diesel's heart broke. "Yeah, son. Come on." They walked to the side of the warehouse where there was a broken window 8 feet up. Tank lifted Tommy onto his shoulders so the boy could see inside. 200 dogs. 200 pairs of eyes turned toward the small face in the window. "Hi, dogs," Tommy said, voice shaking. "I'm Tommy. I found you. I know you're scared and hurting." His voice grew stronger. "But see all those people down there?" Tommy pointed at 100 bikers standing in silence below. "They're here for you. Every single one of them. And we're not leaving. We're not giving up. We're going to save you. I promise." He looked at the golden retriever puppy, the one who'd pressed against the bars on day 1. She was still alive. Barely. "Especially you," Tommy whispered. "Hold on. Please hold on." A reporter's microphone caught every word. The moment was broadcast nationally. Within an hour, 5 million views. Within a day, 50 million. Tommy's tear-stained face, promising dying animals that help was coming, became the face of the campaign. The governor himself got involved, ordering an emergency inspection. Day 6, state animal control officers and state police entered the warehouse with a court order. The inspection took 4 hours. When officials emerged, even hardened state police looked shaken. Dr. Patricia Morgan, lead state veterinarian, addressed the media with trembling voice. "We found 203 dogs inside. 67 are already dead. Of the 136 living, all are severely malnourished and suffering. At least 40 are critical and may not survive." She paused, composing herself. "This is the worst animal cruelty case I've encountered in 30 years. These animals have been systematically tortured through neglect. Some have been in cages for years without ever touching grass or seeing sunlight." The crowd listened in horrified silence. "We're seizing all animals immediately. Richard Castellano is being charged with 203 counts of animal cruelty, falsification of inspection reports, and operating an unlicensed facility. The facility is permanently closed." The crowd erupted in cheers, sad cheers. The dogs would be saved, but 67 had died waiting. Moving 136 critically ill dogs required massive coordination. The Iron Riders became the volunteer labor force. They helped veterinarians carry out the weakest dogs first. They built temporary kennels. They transported animals to emergency clinics across 3 counties. They unloaded donations. These tough, scarred bikers worked alongside vet techs, treating mange, cleaning wounds, bottle-feeding puppies too weak to eat. Tommy worked alongside them under Susan's supervision. He held puppies during exams. He filled water bowls. He sat with the golden retriever, Hope, they'd named her. She was still alive. Barely. Tank, the massive enforcer who looked like he could break a man in half, sat on the ground cradling a 3-pound Chihuahua mix, tears running down his face as the tiny dog licked his finger. "You're safe now, little one," he whispered. "You're safe." Over 3 days, all 136 surviving dogs were evacuated and given a chance at life. The FBI investigation uncovered that the puppy mill wasn't Castellano's only illegal operation. He'd been running a network across 4 states, estimated 2,000 dogs over 10 years. Federal charges were filed. At trial, prosecutors presented photos and video. Veterinarians testified about the suffering. And Tommy Chen, 8 years old, took the witness stand and told the jury about the day he found dogs crying in cages and nobody would help them. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Richard Castellano was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison and ordered to pay $3.7 million in restitution to animal rescue organizations. He would never be allowed to own animals again. Of the 136 dogs rescued, 119 survived. Hope, the golden retriever puppy Tommy had first seen, spent 2 months in critical care. Pneumonia, mange, severe malnutrition. The vets gave her a 30% chance of survival, but Hope fought back. Slowly, painfully, she healed. The fur grew back. The ribs stopped showing. Her eyes started to shine. Tommy visited every week, sitting with her for hours, reading to her, just being there. Hope would rest her head on his lap, and for the first time in her life, she knew what safety felt like. When Hope was cleared for adoption, there was only one choice. Susan signed the papers. Hope came home with Tommy. The boy who'd found her in hell would give her heaven. The other 118 dogs were adopted across the country. 30 went to Iron Riders' families. Diesel adopted a 3-legged pit bull named Warrior. Tank took home the tiny Chihuahua, naming her Peanut. The tough biker and the 3-pound dog became inseparable. The Iron Riders created a program, Guardians of the Voiceless. They partnered with animal welfare organizations to investigate abuse cases that authorities ignored. First year, 12 more puppy mills shut down. Over 400 animals saved. Tommy, now 10, gives speeches at schools about standing up when you see suffering. Hope goes with him everywhere as a therapy dog. The warehouse was demolished. In its place, a small memorial park. For the 67 who didn't make it, and the 136 who did. May we never look away from suffering again. The Iron Riders hold an annual memorial ride to the park. Hundreds of bikers show up, many with their rescued dogs. Tommy rides with them in Diesel's sidecar, Hope running alongside. Diesel keeps a photo in the clubhouse. Tommy on that first day, holding his hand-drawn sign. 200 dogs are dying. The police won't help. Please, they're crying. Below it, a plaque. Tommy Chen, age 8, refused to look away. Saved 136 lives. Taught us all what courage looks like. The bikers tell Tommy's story to every new member. They tell it to remind themselves why they ride, why they fight, why they refuse to ignore suffering. An 8-year-old kid did what a whole town of adults wouldn't do, Diesel always says. He saw suffering and said, "This is wrong." Then he found people crazy enough to help him make it right. That's what brotherhood means. Sometimes the bravest people are the smallest. Sometimes justice requires 100 motorcycles and a media storm. Sometimes one child's compassion can tear down an empire of cruelty. Richard Castellano sits in federal prison, his fortune gone, his reputation destroyed. Tommy Chen sleeps peacefully every night with Hope curled up at the foot of his bed. And 119 dogs who were supposed to die in cages live in loving homes because an 8-year-old boy refused to accept we can't help them. The Iron Riders still patrol, still watch for suffering, still stand up when systems fail. Because they learned from Tommy that sometimes the difference between life and death is one person brave enough to say, "This is wrong," and stubborn enough to refuse to give up. Sometimes heroes wear leather and ride Harleys. Sometimes heroes are 8 years old and ride bicycles. And sometimes, when they work together, they save 136 innocent lives from people who thought money made them untouchable. Tommy just wanted to help puppies stop crying. He accidentally started a movement that continues to save lives. That's what happens when one child's compassion meets 100 bikers' determination. Justice doesn't always come from the system. Sometimes it comes from the people the system taught you to fear.